Okay, so let's talk about caricature now. Caricature is probably one of the biggest aspects of good character design. One of the things that I see in poor character designs is a lack of caricature. Someone that hasn't pushed the design far enough. Someone that hasn't exaggerated whatever traits need to be exaggerated enough. Now, obviously, from project to project or whatever the job might be or whatever you're designing for, there's going to be different levels of caricature. Some will be extremely pushed and some will be kind of held back. But when we're talking about a Disney style, let's say, type film, whether it's Mulan or I don't know, Lion King or anything like that, there's a certain level of caricature that needs to go in to those designs. And for me, caricature is taking those aspects that are distinctive about a character and exaggerating them and really kind of pulling back or even losing a lot of the other features that you probably don't need. Why don't we look at this real quick? This is the definition of caricature I just pulled up. And it says caricature, a picture, description, or imitation of a person or thing in which certain striking characteristics are exaggerated in order to create a comic or grotesque effect. Now, in our case, for character design, it doesn't necessarily have to be comic or grotesque, but it is taking those certain characteristics and exaggerating them. Whether a character is heroic, then exaggerate those traits. Maybe a character is noble. You want to exaggerate those characteristics. Those aren't exactly comic or grotesque, but they're characteristics that you want to exaggerate for your character. So many times people think when I say caricature in reference to character design, they think of the thing that you sit down for at the amusement park and someone draws your face and makes a cartoon out of it. And that's not the type of caricature we're talking about, although that thinking overlaps. It really is taking those traits that make up a certain character, whatever those the character description is, and exaggerating them. Gaston from Beauty and the Beast is kind of a dumb, dim-witted, athletic, big kind of woman's man. And that character is really exaggerated and pushed in those ways. Mufasa from The Lion King is noble. And so they've taken those traits of a lion, which is naturally noble, and really pushed them. He's thick, he's strong, his mane is well defined. He's a rare, very noble looking character. So that's what I want to talk about today, is kind of how I take some of those traits, how I search, because a lot of finding good caricature is searching. And it's, I never hit it right the first time. No one does. No one that I know of anyway. And it really takes some searching and refining to get to that level where you've got a good level of caricature for your character and everything's moving along. So why don't we go ahead and start doing some drawing, and we'll just talk about it. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to turn on this group. Now this is a quick sketch that I did of a face. And it's just an average, typical face, and there's no level of caricature there, okay? And this is kind of a fun exercise for you to do. One of the things that I like to think about when doing caricature, and you're gonna notice that this lecture will overlap with some of the other lectures because they all kind of meld into each other. A big aspect of caricature is exaggeration and therefore pushing certain traits. And we have a lecture where I talk about just that, but this to me is really kind of taking those aspects, taking those things that need to be pushed and really pushing them. The other thing you want to watch out for when doing caricature is just that sense of evenness. You don't want, like in this face right here, it's a very realistic face, but notice how everything is even. The eyes are right in the middle, the nose is right in the middle there, between the eyes and the chin. The mouth is right in the middle between the nose and the chin. Everything's kind of evenly spaced, except maybe we have a bigger area on the forehead. But there's, it's just very realistic and it's very kind of boring. So, like I said, one fun kind of exercise to do, let me shrink this up, is to just take some of these some of these proportions and just push and pull and see what you come up with. So let's say let's take the same hairstyle, basically the same everything there, and let's just kind of move things around and push things. So let's say we want to have kind of a goon, kind of this big athletic kind of muscly guy, but let's take these traits and then push them to fit a character that we want to be more comic and goon-like, okay? So what I would do here is, and you'll notice it all starts very, very loose. This is another thing that overlaps with one of my other videos about scribbling, getting in there and just drawing. A lot of times I just get in and just start moving things around and really playing with that. Well, the first thing I'm going to think about with the goon, he's going to have a little cranium. He's not the brightest guy in the world, so let's move his eye line up, and which will give him kind of a bigger jaw line down here. Let's give him a nice big jaw, like so. Now, if the other thing that a goon would probably have is maybe his eyes are a little closer set together. We'll do that. He's not the brightest light on the tree, So we'll do something like that. And this kind of stuff is just fun to do. So now, let's maybe make his nose a little wider and shorter. Notice how I'm pushing, that eye line now is way up top. I want contrast. I don't want things to be boring. So I want to exaggerate the whole goon aspect of him is that, he's probably going to be this strong, muscly, kind of big, heavy set jaw. So I want to play with that heavy set jaw idea. So maybe he's got, and I want to play with maybe the space between I really want to push, I want to get rid of that evenness that we have in this image right here. So now maybe I pull he's a little caveman-like, pull his mouth down lower and get him to square that jaw off. And we can give him the same, once again, I'm talking about, keeping the same traits and just pushing them. So I'm going to give him the same hairstyle. I'm just going to change it up a little bit. There we go. So here we are, we've got a certain character description in our heads, and now we're taking the real proportions and pushing and pulling in order to fit that character description and trying to make a clear statement. The other thing that I see people do, keep your shapes simple. Keep things as simple as possible, okay? I want a heavy jaw. Well, I'm just going to make a big statement right there and make a heavy jaw, okay? There we go. Now let's give him a big heavy chin. Maybe he's got a little dimple in the chin. And he's got heavy brows. I'm going to drop this down a little bit. And so a lot of times I'll sit here, little bags under the eye, and sketch things out like this. And a lot of times I'll start with the face. If this character, obviously he would have a big, heavy body. Maybe he's got, if he's a bodyguard, maybe he's got he keeps a nice suit on, like so. And you can move features around. Let's take, let's experiment. So this is a fun thing to do as well. So we've got this drawing that's not too bad. Well, what if we change the mouth? What if we decide to put the mouth and bunch everything up here and really make his chin really big? What would that look like? So a lot of times I'm experimenting like this. And maybe we'll give him a little grimace. Now this, to me, now that we've done this kind of feels a little better to me. This feels more kind of goon-like. Now we've got all these features kind of bunched up. There we go. Kind of bunched up up in the top of the face, and so it opens up this nice area so that things aren't even. Remember, evenness in your design is the killer. You know, when we talk about music, you know, this idea is very similar to music. If you think about a nice piece of music, if it's even, it just sounds monotone, it's boring. But when you have music that has ups and downs and changes in tempo and all those sorts of things, it keeps your interest and it's soothing. It's the same thing with art and design. When you have something that's even all over the place, it becomes monotonous. And so what you want to do is you want to be able to find those places where you can open areas up for quiet and compress other areas for interest. And that's what I'm trying to do right here, just in this face. You know, here we've pushed that idea of making things uneven by compressing a lot of the features up here in the top of the head and then really opening up this jaw, you know, and really pushing that. Maybe, you know, he's got his cheekbones right there, and I can play this big shape right there. So now we went from this kind of thing to that kind of thing just by moving the mouth, and got a completely different feel, all by playing with the caricature, exaggerating. You know, I talked about wanting a goon, and maybe that goon has a big kind of jaw. Maybe, like I said, you know, by pushing the size of that jaw and exaggerating, making the cranium smaller, pulling the eyes together to achieve all these different things, I've pushed the caricature and added character to the design. Okay? So there's that. What if we did the same thing? Let's take these two. So there's, you know, all based on, you know, looking at this guy over here, all based on that, we ended up with the character traits that we knew we wanted to exaggerate, and then we ended up with something completely different than what we have here. I'm thinking about the nose, mouth, you know, and all that kind of stuff, but I'm thinking about placement, what to exaggerate, what to make bigger, what to make smaller, what to pull together, all those different things to achieve the proper level of caricature to get across the idea of what that character might be. So let's say we have another one. Let's go the opposite. Maybe we have a character that's a little more frail. Maybe he's a bit smarter. So now let's take a character that's, maybe his cranium's bigger. He's got a big cranium. Maybe a little face or something. And let's push the simple shape. So we'll go like this. And to balance out this thinness down here, I'm going to give him some big ears. So maybe we give him some big ears. Let's pull this eye line right down in here. And what if we pulled his eyes, I'm just experimenting, what if we pulled his eyes further apart? There we go. And let's make his nose right about here. And I'm just playing with the icon of his, you know, that shape of his nose. Let's give him the same haircut, just to show you that. And I want it to work with this shape. So I'm going to bring this shape up like this. And maybe he's got, let's give him glasses. He's got big glasses on. There we go. And a goofy smile. And he's got, you know, this little chin. Just a little chin. Let's go the opposite from what we did with the other guy. Like so. So now we've pulled his eyes apart. Just experimenting. Gave him some glasses. Pulled those ears way out. You know, he's got that kind of classic nerdy look, which I think is kind of fun and appealing and endearing. Throw those ears in. And I'm thinking, even though I'm pushing and pulling that level of caricature, I'm still thinking about anatomy, even though the character is going to be cartoony. I'm thinking about anatomy. Maybe let's give him some heavier. What if his eyebrows were a little heavier? Once again, we can just experiment and see what we get. I don't like that so much, so we can pull that back. Simple as that. I can just go boop, just go a little, there. A little more slight with the eyebrows. That feels more balanced to me. It's always, you know, don't forget to just experiment and see what you come up with. Push and pull. That's the biggest thing for caricature. You know, really take those traits, think about what those traits need to be for your character, and then push and pull. And really, and don't fall in love with those first versions. You know, don't be afraid to keep, you know, experimenting, doing like we did with the goon up here, where we moved the mouth around. You know, maybe maybe this guy, like here, let's take him, and what if we got rid of that nose and gave him a nose down here instead? There's something kind of appealing about that. And I just kind of the shape of it again. There's something a little different about that, and then we can give him a little bit of anatomy. So there's that. Whoops, I'm turning on the wrong one. There we go. That or that. I kind of like the one with the longer nose. So it feels a little more straightforward. But, you know, once again, just experimenting. And then you'd have a little, kind of a little neck. But look at that nice simple shape we've got to exaggerate, you know, that level of caricature that he would have as kind of this nerdy kid. And maybe, you know, let's put him in the same outfit as the other guy, the goon. But because he's, you know, he's kind of thin, maybe he's got a, you know, his neck doesn't fill out his collar. So it's a little, his neck's a little small. And he's got a tie in here. You know, and I like to kind of come up with different ideas for characters and experiment with it. So here you've got something that's kind of fun. Maybe that comes in there. And then, you know, when you scribble like this, you can always, like I said, you know, before, you can always come in, you can always tie down, you can always change things around like I'm going to do here. And just, you know, once you get those proportions kind of worked out, then you can always come back in and have some fun making the drawing pretty. I always talk about making your drawing pretty. You know, that should be your last stage. The first stage is doing the work of trying to find those proportions, find that design, getting that level of caricature down right. And so then, you know, once I have that figured out, then I can just come in and start to draw and have some fun with it, like so. Now I like him nice, kind of nice and bright-eyed. So let's. I'm going to keep those eyes nice and round. Maybe give him some eyelashes. He's a real bright-eyed, kind of happy guy. A little highlight on the eye there. There, just like so. Maybe he's got a few bags under his eyes. But I do this all the time, you know, pushing and pulling and searching when I'm sitting down to start out a new character design. It's always, you know, looking for that level of caricature, but keeping shape in mind, keeping things simple. Like I said, I wanted to keep a nice simple shape right here. Those are things that I'm always conscious of as I'm moving forward on a design. And I'm just going to draw this in real quick just to show you. And go in and have some fun with getting things tied down. Now let's talk about some full body types. So there you go. There's something like that. Oh, let's do his mouth real quick. Maybe he's got a little bit of that showing there, which should lead into his lip over here just to give him a little bit of a different smirk. Maybe his chin is a little off center, like so. That could be kind of funny. It's very subtle. It's a subtle expression. There. But once again, just have some fun with it. Push the features. Really think about the character that you're creating, and what are the features that make up that character and exaggerate them as much as you can. So with that in mind, what if we had, let's say, a big fat character, and let's do a full body. And once again, you want to think simple shapes, but really exaggerate your characters. A good example of the type of character I'm going to draw is, think about if you've seen the movie The Legend of Mulan, or Mulan, which I worked on. There's the Gang of Three. I happen to work on a character named Yao, who is this character that liked to fight all the time. But then there is this character Chen Po, who is a big, kind of round, rotund, really big, gentle giant. And he's really, really pushed. And so that's what I'm talking about. His level of caricature is dramatically pushed. And so let's say if we had a guy like that, and let's have him running. I want his head to be kind of small. So I'd start out with a little head. And, he'd have big shoulders, like so. And I'm going to really push his size. I'm going to push him here. Now I'm going to think about nice, simple shapes. See those simple shapes I'm thinking about as I draw this. Probably could go even bigger with him. And then this other arm, let's have this arm going back. Think about these overlapping shapes as they go back. Little hands to really emphasize the size of his body. I'm thinking about all those things that are going to help push the caricature. These big round arms and these little hands. All of that adds to the level of caricature. So let's come in here. He's got maybe his hand up here. There we go. I'm just going to scribble that in for now. Big round arms. And if this arm's back, then he's going to have this foot coming forward. And to make him feel really big, I'm going to give him some little legs. Just little legs like so. And I'm going to bring that, I'm thinking about the form, so I'm going to bring that around like so, just a little bit. There we go. And just like we did with the hands, I'd give him these little feet. So once again, I'm thinking about pushing that caricature, really kind of making things, taking them further than what you think you would, exaggerating those traits, those important traits that make up that character, that make that character who they are. And maybe, just so it doesn't look odd, I want to catch a little bit of that other foot right there. Not the foot, but the knee, as it comes down like there. And we'll give him some shorts. He's running down to the beach, this big guy. But see how I'm really pushing that caricature? Big open spaces right here against these tiny little features, the little legs, little arms against that body, even though they're, and then even tinier little fingers. I want to push that idea of this guy being a big, round, happy guy. And let's do the same thing with the face. All right, so if I'm going to, if I want him to be kind of big and happy, I'm going to maybe bring his eye line up here. Maybe make those eyes right about in here. And really compress his features a little bit so that I can see more of maybe the double chin, the big thick neck, like so. Bring his mouth way up like we did with the goon. There we go. There, see? And I can bring his chin. Maybe he's got his chin here, and this goes into kind of the double chin under his neck. feeds into the rest of his body here. And I'll give him little ears. Everything I'm doing to exaggerate that caricature. I want to take his regular features and push them so that we have something that's comic, and we have something that's fun, and something animatable. So there, we've got a little guy here, or a big guy, kind of running down to the beach. And for me, I'm looking at it balanced now. Like I said, you always want to experiment. Here I've tried to push the face being small, but that face to me a little bit feels, it just feels a little too small. So it feels out of balance. So what I have that ability, and if you're drawing on pencil or paper, you can just come in and erase and redraw. But there, I just enlarged it a little bit. And now to me, that feels a little better without having sacrificed the nice balance that I have in the head. And notice how the head, the proportions of the head and where the features are located, that all kind of mimics the rest of the design. It kind of holds it all together. You know, I've got an area of concentration with a big area of openness here, and it's the same thing with the head. There's an area of concentration with a big area of openness right there. So that all helps with that level of caricature. And then, like I said, once I get something like this down, then I can just go in, having roughed it in, had a little bit of fun with it. Now I can come in and really kind of and tie it down and define some of these areas that I want to define. And maybe I don't want the mouth to be quite as big. And maybe I want to accentuate those cheeks a little bit. So I can do something like that, give them a little bit of a lower lip. Here I'm really pushing these eyes. Here we go. Push those cheeks up. Notice how, you know, once I've done the work of finding those right proportions, then I can come in and just have some fun drawing. You know, take it to the next level. The first level, you know, the broad level is finding your proportions, finding what's pleasing. And then that next level is finding some of the details on top of that. And that's what we're doing here. Maybe you've got a little bit of a cheek indication back there. There we go. And getting that hair flying back. There. And then it's, you know, even though it's scribbly, I can come in and just get really simple and confident with my line. I always try to stay confident with the line. And I can come in and quickly lay in this guy's body and hands and all this stuff, all the fun stuff here. Maybe you see another bit of the hand back there. Okay, so that is how I would normally start out. Maybe we get a little bit of a roll right there. There we go. That feels kind of nice. He feels nice and plump and fun and round. Like so. And so that, you know, for me, this, I would tie this down and this would become a pose, and I would start playing with, you know, I'd do another one and start doing some more poses and having some fun with that. But let's go ahead and take him and put him off to the side. I'll put him up here. What if we have a character that's just the opposite of that? Let's have, what if someone's super skinny? Well, let's push them. Let's push really skinny and see what we come up with. Let's say we have, you know, I want to emphasize the fact. Let's do this a woman. Have her come down, and I really want to have some hard edges. Maybe she's got hips down here. I want to emphasize this. I'm going to shrink this up. There we go. Hard, pointy shoulders. I'm looking at tilts. I want to do some opposing tilts just for, you know, the design. Let's bring that arm down here. Notice how I'm just going really, maybe she's got a long, I'm looking for that long flowy feel, and tall and very thin. There we go. Maybe her head, let's bring her head up here. Notice how very, very rough I'm being. Don't be afraid to go rough. So near. Give her a pointy chin. She's looking off to the side maybe. And to accentuate that thinness of hers, let's continue this flow right up into maybe a hairdo up here. So now we've got, I'm really pushing that caricature. We've got this, feel that flow go right through. That's what I'm talking about. It's really important to think about these flows to help push features and to keep your drawing. You know, this is, I'm finding that line of action. You want to keep that drawing feeling like it's all unified and it flows together and it has this grace to it. Especially doing this drawing of a woman like this, I want it to feel like it's got grace. I'm going to bring her nose way down here. There we go. And we'll put her eyes way up high, and just to see what that looks like. Big forehead. There we go. Like so. Maybe a little strap. But I want this curve, straights, and the curve here along the straights there. So I want some hard edges to really play, and hard corners to play the thinness of her. I'm really pushing that caricature. And actually, let's try something else. I can bring her down and let's stretch her a little bit. We can really stretch it out and really push that. Now look at the difference between, you know, our big round guy up here and what we're doing with her. We're really pushing caricature, and that's what I want you to think about when it comes time for you to design something. Think about what it is that the traits, the different traits of that character, what it is that you're supposed to be designing. And then that's what you want to focus on and exaggerate. So here, I want her to feel, I want it to feel like she's got a long neck. So maybe I should push that neck just a little more. There we go. And I'm going to put these ears back further. And I'm going to give her more exaggerated cheekbones. Maybe her eyes are half shut. There we go. And then real heavy eyelashes. And we'll give her a pointed nose. I'm going to push those cheekbones a bit. Maybe she's got earrings that break the silhouette down here. We'll give her something that breaks that silhouette. Big, full lips. Right out to this pointy chin. Pushing caricature. I want hard, pointy edges to exaggerate this woman's look. Right up into her hair being swept up. I still want to keep this feel. Going up into her hair, I want to keep that gesture. So I want this to really kind of come around and feel like it's feeding into the rest of the body. I want to feel that hair being pulled up like so. I'm keeping everything real simple. There. So now we got this swooping feel. Maybe a couple of hairs down there. There we go. I'm going to push these shoulders. So there you can see we've got something going that's completely different from the big guy. There we go. I'm thinking about the anatomy. Straight. Maybe there's a little curve right there. Everything, I'm keeping everything really thin. There we go. So once again, you know, coming in and tying everything down once you've had it figured out. Maybe, you know, because she's thin, maybe the dress is a little loose on the top. And you get that kind of feel in the folds. Like so. You know what I mean? We'll bring that around. There we go, like this. You can get this kind of interesting feel. Like so. This is a little too much. I'll just indicate something rough there. But keeping things nice and simple. There we go. So here, I don't like that right there. Constantly, you know, I don't always do it right the first time. I'm always, you know, I search as much as the next guy. It's just that I don't give, you don't give up. Don't ever give up, okay? So there's a start of what, you know, something I might do for a woman that's really thin against, you know, here's a guy that's really round. It's playing those contrasts. These two, you know, you could see them in a movie and obviously you'd be able to tell them apart. That's a big thing about some character designs that I have a problem with. The caricatures don't get pushed enough, and then a lot of times it's hard to tell different characters apart, especially characters of the same gender, like females or males. You know, you get a bunch of males together in a character lineup, and sometimes their designs are so similar it's hard to tell them apart. And a lot of times they rely on color, hair color or skin color or clothes, and you really don't want to rely on that. You want to rely on shape. That should be your first, you know, the caricature, the shape of the characters, the varying shapes should be the first thing that stands out to you when you see a lineup and all the differences. Okay, let's go ahead and what if we had, let's try an animal character. Let's do that. I've got some images right here I'm going to bring over and show you. Let's do a lion. I love drawing lions. I love drawing big cats. And so here are several shots of, three of very many shots. This is a wild lion that I photographed when I was in Kenya a couple of years ago. And so he's, you know, this is a really great specimen. He's a big male in his prime. He's got the black mane. Look how full he is. You know, he's got this lion we actually saw over a couple of days. He was feeding on a zebra. And so when you see him in these pictures, his belly is completely full. He's got about 60 pounds of meat in his belly, and he's just in his prime. And so there's a real lion. Now, you know, a lot of people ask me, you know, Aaron, can you teach us how to do animal character design? Animal character design is the same as any other character design, doing human character design. All you need to do is learn your anatomy, learn how to draw that animal and for real, that real animal. Learn the anatomy, learn everything you can so that you can draw them inside and out. And just when you can, like lions, for instance, I can think of a lion and I can draw a lion. And then all the same principles apply when it comes to caricature. I'm going to caricature a lion according to the traits that I want to create. For let's, if I have a character that I want to be kind of big and noble, then I'm going to take some of those traits that I think are universal as a noble character and apply them to that lion. Okay, so let's do something like that now. So the first thing is, in thinking about, remember, I don't want evenness. So what if we have a character? Let's play a character that's kind of, like I said, let's go with noble. So I want to have I'm thinking about noble, maybe a heavier jawed character, strong. So his mane would be just right. So those are all the things. Now I'm thinking about a real lion. So let's bring him up here. And I'm going to put his eye line up a little higher. And maybe, let's see here. I'm going to give him a heavier nose. A little bit bigger. There we go. I'm going to put his eye right there. The other eye, I'm going to spread them out just a little bit. But I want to have him have a heavy chin, a heavy jaw. So I'm going to think about what's happening underneath that mane. And go real heavy. There we go. Maybe he's got a little smile going. There. Go real heavy with that snout. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. So I'm always thinking about, okay, these are the different traits that I'm looking for in this character. Now I've got some features here that are kind of pushed together. So I want to balance that out. And I'm going to put his ears up here. So if he didn't have his mane, he would look something like that. I'll do this. There we go. So now I want to balance out all this detail with a nice big open mane. Well, the first thing, if you look at here, that's very common in lions. You've got this part of the mane right here, this big orange part that kind of that encircles the face. So I'm gonna hit that first. So it's gonna be like a multi-step. It's gonna go a little wider and then really big. I'm thinking about the aesthetic that I'm trying to achieve. So I want this to come down. Maybe all that fur comes under here, all that hair. And that covers up, it's going to cover up this jaw. That jaw's buried under there. Even though I'm thinking about that jaw, that gets buried under there. And now, once again, thinking about that caricature, I'm going to turn his head just a little bit. Now I'm going to go really big. And once again, this is where the experimentation can happen. There we go. I want it big. I want it to come up like this. And so I want it to feel like he's got a big chest. And it's interesting, if this has got a little bit of Mufasa feel to it. Tony Fucelli, who is the designer, who's a brilliant character designer, he was thinking about the same things that we're talking about here. And it just kind of happens that they come out similar. And I want to feel this kind of flow, so I'm going to mimic this and let this come right into here. There we go. Feel that? You can feel that flow coming up into here. and we'll give him a big chest. And I'm just being real scribbly with it. Shoulder blades come up. So those arms are in there like so. And so now I can knock this back. And once again, because I know how to draw a line, I've got proper reference, and I've drawn hundreds of them. That's the key. If you want to caricature and design animal characters, you need to know how to draw those animals first. Go to the zoo, record nature programs. That's another thing that I do. But anything you can in order to hit those, to get the knowledge that you need. Once again, I'm playing with the caricature here. I know that lions have big, heavy darkness around their eyes, so I'm going to emphasize that a little bit. I'm going to push the brow expression just a bit. I'm going to push that. Actually, I'm going to pull this down a little bit and let this come up like so. There we go. Because I want that forehead to feel a little flatter. Maybe we'll have him looking off to the side. We'll bring this down, and I like to add in just a little bit of an indication of that nasal bone, because once again I'm thinking about anatomy as well, and I know that this is where the cartilage starts, and this part of the nose gets kind of round. This is open. It goes right into a nice big nostril. So I'm really, even though I'm caricaturing, I'm thinking about what's really happening with that anatomy underneath. Know your anatomy if you're going to start caricaturing. You need to know what's really there before you can start exaggerating what's there, okay? That's very important. So, and I know that they have a little white kind of ring around their eye, so I'm going to do that. There we go. And lions have very dark, it's a big trait, those dark lips. These the bones that come down the cheekbones. I'm trying to get, some nice, simple shapes happening. I'm thinking, as I'm doing this design, I'm thinking in animatable terms, meaning I'm thinking of big shapes so that someone can come along and animate it fairly easily. Even though this seems a bit complicated, there's some simple shapes going on that I'm just laying the details on top of. I'm just going to color that in real quick. There. So like I said, like I was demonstrating earlier, once you get the hard part in, which is finding those proportions, then you can come in and have some fun adding the details. I want this to feel furry. Maybe he's been in a few scraps, so I'll make his ear a little chewed up. Some fur inside the ear. And I want big. I want to retain, even though I'll make a few hair breaks right there, I want to retain this big, simple shape. I want that. I want to hang on to that. Because once again, that helps with the animatableness of it, if that makes sense. It keeps it animatable. There we go. And it keeps it pleasing. It's less distracting. I want the eye to go to here, to the face. I don't want it being caught, I don't want the eye to be caught up in other details that we don't need. So I want to balance that out. Once again, there's the other ear. So there's a kind of a big noble lion. By thinking about exaggeration, thinking about pushing and pulling areas of quiet against areas of detail and interest. And maybe we can pull his Maybe we pull he's got a couple of whiskers and we keep them down low. That adds a little bit of interest there. So there's a lion. What if we, let's take a lion that's maybe a little dopey. Okay, so now once again, we know what a lion looks like. What if we did the same thing and made him dopey? Well, let's push the caricature. So here, maybe we pull his eyes really close together. We'll do something like this. There we go. I'm going to turn that a little bit. Let's really push his nose. You know, we can really have some fun with this little head. And then this nose. I want to play with size here a little bit. See, I'm experimenting with exaggeration. That's what I want you to do. When you do caricature, go beyond. You know, go beyond what you think it should be. Here, I'm really pushing it. I want to see how far I can go with this. Maybe we get a chin. His chin's way down here. Look how much this is pushed. Because I know that I can balance it out with the mane later on. So here I've got something really, really pushed. And he's a little dopey looking. Like so. Scribbly, scribbly, scribbly. Don't be afraid to get scribbly with it, because then you can really experiment. And I'm going to pull all that shape together. Remember this up here? Remember that orange? Well, I can pull all that together and balance it out by using that orange frame around his face. Now I can really simplify that shape, like so. Let me shrink that up. He's looking a little sad rather than dopey, but that's okay. And now, maybe his mane doesn't go up quite as high. I'm going to keep a real simple shape. There. Now, I've got all that detail and this fun shapes right here. And once again, once I find something like that, and completely changing proportions, we're completely changing the caricature. That's what, that's what we try to do as character designers. We try to get variety. So here, I would come in and add kind of the details. This eye. There we go. There we go. That feels better. Getting a better feel to that eye now. Because I had it established, and now I can come in and finish it off. Make it nice and heavy right there. Maybe that eye is a little more open than this eye. Just a touch. It's all about making things different, pushing and pulling proportions, but notice how I'm trying to make the eyes slightly different. I'm always trying to find places that I can, vary up features and make things more interesting. So here I'm going to pull those cheekbones way up high, way up tight. And then come down here and really start pushing these big, look at that big nose. And even though I'm tying it down, I'm still going really bold with it. Really pushing these features so that I'm pushing that caricature down into that furry chin. And it goes on and on. So like so. And And I would carry that out. So look at the difference between these two. I'm thinking about a real lion and then taking what I know about that real lion and applying it to this caricatured lion that I want. I wanted a dopey one, or I wanted a kind of a noble one. So it's really taking those traits. Think about whatever character that you're designing and exaggerate those traits, apply them to your character, make things uneven, really push and pull areas of interest against areas of broad and quiet. Remember, I was talking about music. Let's look at one more. I've got a couple of them here that I want to show you. Here I've got some impalas. These are more photos that I shot. Let me do this. There we go. These are more photos that I shot while I was in Africa. So I've got these guys here, and these guys are kind of the prey for all the other big cats and animals. But I thought it would be kind of fun to do for this course, to do a couple of drawings of these guys. What would I do if I turned them into a character? And so here I took some of the traits that make up an impala and I kind of exaggerated them just a little bit to come up with this character. So here is an impala. And I really looked at like the straight, bony back that you see here. Let's open this up a little bit. Even though there's curves here, when you look at it against the bottom of the body, I wanted to play, you know, these straight, hard edges against the smoothness down here. Now the impala also has a nice, graceful neck. Here, he's got a kind of a bull neck. It's kind of filled out. But here I wanted to exaggerate it and make it a little bit more elegant in this one, and really kind of play with the fluidity of the character. Notice too how high the eyes are on the face. So that I really liked. I latched onto that. I latched onto this idea that there's a big difference between the cranium and all this space. That's really nice. So I didn't really have to change that much. And so I actually, if you look at here, I really played with that and pushed it in here and really played this shape against the nose shape and really tried to play the elegance of the horns and let that play right into the elegance of the neck. So I wanted this nice fluid kind of feel. So that's what I would recommend for you to do. If you want to learn more animal character design, is to get out there and draw animals from life. Learn as much as you can from them, and once you understand them, try dogs. I mean, if you've got a dog at home or cat, draw them and learn them. That's the key to all this. There's no secret formula to that's going to give you animal character designs. Like I said, people ask me, well, how do I do animal character designs? It's the same as doing human character designs. You just need to know how to draw the animal. And then once you do, you can exaggerate, you can have fun, you can push and pull and to your heart's content, and everything will look great. So anyway, so that is caricature. Get out there and, you know, it's a very important, I wanted this one to be a little bit longer because I really want you to understand that caricature is not just randomly pushing and pulling things. It's really thinking about who that character is, the physical traits, the mental traits, latch onto those, and that's what you want to exaggerate, okay? Why don't we go ahead and move on to the next video.